Video we will be going to study about the mechanism of coagulation involving the extrinsic and intrinsic pathways of coagulation and various coagulating factors which are important for the process of coagulation. So what coagulation is? First, coagulation. So coagulation means where there is formation of the fibrin meshwork. So in coagulation there is the formation of fibrin meshwork which forms the clot, okay, and which helps the body to prevent the bleeding. So that is what coagulation is. Okay, now there are two things which are present in our blood. One is procoagulants and second one is anticoagulants. Procoagulants means these are the agents which help in the coagulation. Procoagulants, important procoagulants which are present in our blood are: first one is clotting factors which are 12 in number. Then there are phospholipids. Then there are platelets. So procoagulants, clotting factors, phospholipids and platelets. So these three factors or these three things, these help in the coagulation. That's why they are called as the procoagulants. Now second one is anticoagulants which are also present in the blood. First one is natural inhibitors. For example, AT3 means antithrombin third. Then there is a protein C and protein S. These are also present in our blood. And second one is fibrinolysis. It also acts as an anticoagulant. Okay, so this protein C and protein S here, this protein C and protein S, okay, both the protein C and protein S, these are vitamin K dependent. So these depend on the vitamin K for their function, and these both protein C and protein S, these are synthesized by liver. Okay, and this antithrombin third, AT3 or antithrombin third, its full form is antithrombin third. Okay, and these protein C and protein S, these are vitamin K dependent. That is the first thing. Second thing is these inactivate the factors. So these inactivate the factors, factor number 5 and factor number 8. Okay, factor number 5 in the inactivated state and the factor number 8 in the activated state. So they will inactivate them. Normally what happens in our body, there is a balance between the procoagulants and anticoagulants. So a normal balance exists between the procoagulants and the anticoagulants normally in our body. So disturbances in this balance, they can cause, for example, if the procoagulants will increase and anticoagulants in our blood will decrease, what will happen? It will cause thrombosis. Thrombosis means formation of the blood clot. Why there will be formation of blood clot? Because the procoagulant, the concentration of the procoagulant in our blood will increase, means clotting factors, phospholipids and platelets. If any one of these in our body increases, so that will lead to the thrombosis or the blood clot formation. Second condition can also happen, which is when the concentration of the procoagulants will decrease and the concentration of the anticoagulants will increase. So here the anticoagulants are increasing, that means there will be bleeding in our body. Okay, so to prevent this bleeding, what will happen? There will be a process of coagulation which we will be studying here. Okay, so one more thing is there which is important, that is hemostasis. Hemostasis, it means prevention or stoppage of blood loss. That means prevention or stoppage of blood loss. The blood loss which occurs because the anticoagulants will increase in our blood. To prevent that blood loss, a process will occur in our body, a phenomenon will occur in our body which is called as hemostasis. Okay, so hemostasis, what happens actually in the hemostasis? First thing which happens in the hemostasis is vasoconstriction. And vasoconstriction of vessel wall. So blood vessels will constrict, that is the first thing. Then after that, what will happen? Platelets will come at the site of the injury. Okay, so production and activation of the platelets will occur. Production and activation of platelets will occur. Okay, and then there will be formation of the platelet plug, which will try to stop the bleeding. Okay, after the platelet plug has been formed, what will happen? There will be blood coagulation. This topic we are going to study. Blood coagulation means formation of the fibrin to form the clot, and after the blood coagulation has been completed, one more step will occur there, which is called as fibrinolysis. Means breakdown. Lysis means breakdown of the fibrin, means breakdown of the clot. Okay, these are the things which will occur in our body. Or if we will go to diagrammatically, for example, this is the vessel, this is the blood vessel. Okay, so here, for example, this is the site of the injury, and this here is the vessel lumen, means inside of the vessel. Okay, and this is the vessel wall. Okay, what happens? This vessel lumen contains platelets, RBCs. For example, these are the platelets. So it contains platelets, it contains RBCs, it contains WBCs. But in coagulation, what is important? Platelets are important here. Okay, so these platelets, these will come to the site of the injury. So this is the site of the injury. They will come here, and they will form a plug here, which is called as the platelet plug, which I have mentioned here. This is a platelet plug. So this was the cut edge. Okay, so platelet plug is formed, then these coagulating factors will come. They will help in the process of coagulation. So before going to the process of coagulation, we must be knowing about the clotting factors. There are various clotting factors which are present in our blood. So we will be discussing about those clotting factors. Okay, so there are 12 clotting factors. So I will write the names here. First clotting factor, which is called as fibrinogen. Second clotting factor, I am writing in both Roman as well as this. Second one is prothrombin. These two are very much important. Third one is thromboplastin, or which is also called as tissue factor. Thromboplastin or tissue factor. Then fourth one is calcium, fourth clotting factor. Then fifth clotting factor, it's called as labile factor. Then there is no sixth factor, there is a seventh factor, which is called as the stable factor. Then after the seventh factor, eighth factor, which is called as anti-hemophilic factor or anti-hemophilic A factor. Then there is ninth factor, which is called as Christmas factor or anti-hemophilic B factor. Anti-hemophilic B factor. Okay. Then there is 10th factor, which is called as Stott power factor. Stott power factor. Then there is 11th factor, which is called as plasma thromboplastin antecedent or PTA. Plasma thromboplastin antecedent or PTA in the short form. Then there is 12th factor, which is called as Hagman factor. Then there is factor number 13, which is called as fibrin stabilizing factor. It helps in stabilization of the fibrin stabilizing factor. So these are the 12 coagulating factors which are present in our blood. Okay, so factor number first and factor number second, these are very important for the process of coagulation. Okay, so fibrinogen, it's produced by the liver or it's formed by the liver. Okay, then there is prothrombin. For prothrombin, vitamin K is very important, so I will write it here. So for the functioning of the prothrombin, vitamin K is very essential, okay, for the synthesis of this. There are other factors for which vitamin K is important. For example, factor number 7, I will write it here, K is important for the synthesis of this. Okay, then there is factor number 9, vitamin K is important for this also. Then there is factor number 10, for this also vitamin K is very much important. Okay, or you can remember these all factors by mnemonics. For example, I will write the mnemonics here. Foolish people try climbing long slopes after Christmas. Some people have fallen. So this is a mnemonics to remember all the clotting factors. F, first one, it is a fibrinogen. P, it is the second one, prothrombin. Then T, it is a thromboplastin. Then C is calcium. Then L means labile factor. S means stable factor. A means antihemophilic factor. C is the Christmas factor. This is stored power factor. Then P means plasma thromboplastin antecedent. Then H is Hagman factor, and F is fibrin stabilizing factor. So you can remember all the clotting factors by this mnemonic. So this is the mnemonics by which you can easily remember names of all the clotting factors. Okay, so I already told you prothrombin, fibrinogen and thrombin. These are very much important for the process of coagulation. These two, fibrinogen and prothrombin. Okay, prothrombin, it is also formed by the liver. Okay, formation occurs in the liver. It's vitamin K dependent. It is normal for the normal production. Vitamin K is very important for prothrombin. Okay, and its formation will decrease in two cases. First case will be if there will be a liver disease, and second case is lack of vitamin K, means in bleeding. So in bleeding there will be lack of vitamin K. So its production will decrease in two cases, liver disease and bleeding. These are the two cases which will decrease the production of the prothrombin. Okay, now we will go to the process of the coagulation, actual process of the coagulation. So till now we have learned how the coagulation occurs, why the coagulation occurs in our body when there is. So coagulation occurs when there is concentration of the procoagulants in our blood increases and the concentration of the anticoagulants in our blood decreases. This thing you have to remember here. Procoagulant concentration increases, anticoagulant concentration decreases. That means there will be thrombosis or blood clotting. Okay, so and this occurs only when there is some injury to the tissue or injury in any part of the body. So there will be the process of the coagulation. So remember, after remembering these coagulating factors, we will go to the process of the coagulation. Okay, how the process of coagulation occurs. So this process of coagulation, it is very important. Okay, step by step we will learn how process of coagulation occurs. Okay, so whenever there is any injury to the body, so blood coagulation, it occurs within few seconds after injury. So within few seconds the blood coagulation will occur. Now there are two pathways of the blood coagulation. One is intrinsic pathway, which is a long pathway. Second one is extrinsic pathway, which is a short pathway. Extrinsic pathway, these are the two pathways of the coagulation. One is intrinsic pathway, second one is extrinsic pathway. So this extrinsic pathway, it is short. Okay, it is a short pathway and it is a fast pathway. And this extrinsic pathway, it is triggered by materials which are released from the damaged cells. For example, there is damage to any cell, so that cell will release the damaged materials. Okay, that will release the materials. Okay, so these materials trigger this pathway, which is called as the extrinsic pathway. Now first one is intrinsic pathway. What happens in case of the intrinsic pathway? It occurs when there is contact with injured surface or injured blood vessel. Okay, so I will start with the intrinsic pathway. So what happens in case of the intrinsic pathway? In blood there is presence of an enzyme prekallikrein. So prekallikrein, it's present in the blood. Okay, when there is any injury, this prekallikrein, it will be converted into kallikrein. So this was an inactivated form, this is an activated form. So kallikrein is also an enzyme which is present in our blood. Now this kallikrein, this will act on factor number 12. This is factor number 12, and it will convert this factor number 12 into activated form of factor number 12. This is factor number 12, but it is in the activated form. A means activated. So 12 factor will be converted into the activated form of 12 by kallikrein. And here one more enzyme acts, which is called as HMWK, high molecular weight kinogen. So high molecular weight kinogen will help here. So factor 12 will be converted into the activated form of factor 12. Now this factor 12 again on this HMWK will act, and it will convert factor 11 into activated form of factor 11. Wherever I am writing A, it means the activated form. Okay, and now this activated form of 11 factor, this will act on factor 9, and it will convert this factor 9 into activated form of factor 9. And this, now this activated factor 9, it will act on factor number 10, and it will convert the factor 10 into activated form of the factor 10. Now here other substances will help. For example, calcium will help here, phospholipids will help here, and factor 8 will help here. This is the factor 8. So these things will convert, and this activated form of factor 9 will convert factor 10 into activated form of factor 10. So this is one pathway. Second pathway, simultaneously I will explain this pathway also, because it's the short pathway. So in this pathway, what happens that tissue factor, or we can call it as factor third, if this factor third converts factor 8 into activated form of factor 8. So this is the factor 8, it is converted into the activated form of the factor 8. And this factor 8 acts on factor 10 and converts into activated form of factor 10. So from here, sorry, this will not be here, this will act on this one. So here there will be, so this will act here, and this factor activated form of factor 8, it will act here, and it will convert the factor 10 into activated form of factor 10. So these were two pathways here, extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. Now from here they will form a common pathway. Okay, till now we have stated this thing. Pre-kallikrein, I will explain it again. In intrinsic pathway, when the intrinsic pathway will occur in our body, when there will be contact with the injured surface, when there will be contact with the blood vessel, injured blood vessel, at that time this pre-kallikrein, it is an enzyme which is present in our blood, it will be converted into kallikrein, and on this high molecular weight kinase will act, which is called as high molecular weight kinogen. Okay, this high molecular weight kinogen or kallikrein, it will act on the factor 12, and it will convert the factor 12 into the activated form of the factor 12. Okay, then this factor 12, activated form of factor 12, will convert factor 11 into the activated form of factor 11. Then this factor 11 will act on factor 9 and will convert it into activated form of factor 9. Then factor 9 will act on factor 10 and will convert the factor 10 into the activated form of factor 10. Okay, and simultaneously what will happen for the extrinsic pathway, factor third, it will act on factor 8, convert into the activated form of factor 8, and that activated form of factor 8 will act on factor 10 and convert it into activated form of factor 10. And from here what will happen, a common pathway will occur from here. Okay, so there will be a common pathway for here. Till now we have stated extrinsic and intrinsic. Now there is a common pathway for both of these. Common pathway for extrinsic as well as a intrinsic pathway. Now we have factor 10. This is the factor 10. This factor 10, this will now act on, I will write it here. This factor 10 will now act on prothrombin second, and in presence of calcium, phospholipid and factor 5. This is the factor 5 here. Okay, and this will convert it into thrombin. Prothrombin will be converted into thrombin by activated form of factor 10, calcium, phospholipid and factor 5. It will be converted into thrombin, activated form of thrombin. Okay, this is the activated form of thrombin. So prothrombin second will be converted into thrombin, but activated form of the thrombin. Okay, and this thrombin second A, now this will act on, now this here will act on fibrinogen first, fibrinogen first, and will convert the fibrinogen first into fibrin monomer. And on fibrin monomer, what will act? On fibrin monomer, activated form of factor 13 will act. And this activated form of factor 13 comes from here. So this is the factor 13, which is converted into activated form of factor 13, and it will act on fibrin monomer. And one more thing will act here with this calcium, and it will convert this everything into the fibrin. And fibrin is the clot. So this is the process of coagulation, or how the coagulation occurs in our body. So this pathway from here to here, this is called as the common pathway. Okay, so this is the common pathway which occurs in the coagulation. So what actually happens in the common pathway? Till now we have studied different things, the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway. So main important thing here is this factor 10. So this factor 10 is important. This is formed by the intrinsic as well as the extrinsic pathway. Then this factor 10, it acts on prothrombin second, and in presence of calcium, phospholipid and factor 5, this prothrombin second is converted into thrombin second. Okay, but the activated form of the thrombin second. And this thrombin second acts on fibrinogen first and converts this fibrinogen first into the fibrin monomer. On fibrin monomer, what will act? Activated form of factor 13, which was formed from here, and calcium will act also on this, and this will convert this fibrin monomer into fibrin, and this fibrin we call it as clot. Okay, at the starting I had told you that what coagulation is. Coagulation is formation of the fibrin meshwork to form the clot. So here the fibrin meshwork is formed. That means the coagulation in our body has occurred, or in the injured vessel or any part of the tissue has occurred. Okay, so that is the past process of the coagulation. So this is the common pathway for both the intrinsic and the extrinsic pathways. So we have studied the intrinsic pathway, we have studied the extrinsic pathway, which is short, which is fast. Okay, and this short and fast pathway, this was triggered by the materials which are released from the damaged tissues. Okay, then the factor third, this factor third acts on factor 8 and converts it into the activated form of the factor 8, and then this factor activated form of factor 8, this acts on factor 10, converts it into the activated form of factor 10, and then this common pathway occurs. And same happens with the intrinsic pathway. Okay, this intrinsic pathway is triggered by contact with for example the surface or injured surface or injured blood vessel, and then this process occurs. At the end, a common pathway is followed, and this is the common pathway which I have already explained. Okay, so this is how the process of coagulation occurs in our body. Now there is one more important thing. The clot has been formed. Okay, so the clot has been formed here. This is the formation of the clot. Now after the bleeding has stopped in our body, we need to dissolve this clot also, because it will not be there for a long period of time. This fibrin has to be broken down, and that breakdown of fibrin, that is called as fibrinolysis, which we will be studying here. Fibrinolysis. Lysis means breakdown, breakdown of the fibrin, that is called as fibrinolysis. So breakdown of fibrin by naturally occurring enzyme, breakdown of fibrin. So this breakdown of fibrin, it occurs by an enzyme which is present naturally in our body, which is called as the plasmin. So plasmin here is very important. So plasmin helps in the breakdown of the fibrin. Okay, so therefore it prevents the intravascular blocking. For example, this is the vessel. Okay, this vessel was injured by anything. For example, any of the reasons this vessel was injured. Now, by the process of coagulation, a clot has been formed here. Okay, if this clot is not removed from here, because already the bleeding has stopped, clot has been formed, fibrin forms the clot. If this clot is not removed from the body, so blood will come from here, and ultimately after some period of time it can cause intravascular blocking. Intravascular blocking. So vessel can be blocked if this clot is in the vessel. Okay, if this clot has been formed in the vessel, if this clot is not removed from here, so this will cause the intravascular blocking. Okay, so to prevent this intravascular blocking, our body has one natural enzyme which is called as the plasmin. This plasmin comes, and this plasmin will break down the clot. Okay, so there will be breakdown of this clot, which is called as fibrinolysis. Okay, and now this plasmin is not always present in the activated form, because if it will always be present in the activated form, then there will be then it will always break down the clots. Okay, so this plasmin, it's present in blood, but it is present in the inactivated form. Inactivated form. So there is inactivated form of plasmin which is present in our blood, and that inactivated form is called as plasminogen. Plasminogen, it is an inactivated form of the plasmin. So when the clot has been formed, when the bleeding stops, then this plasminogen, it will get converted into plasmin. Okay, and but this plasmin, when it will get converted into plasminogen, it can't get converted by itself. Plasminogen. So when it gets converted, when this plasmin gets converted into plasminogen, it gets activated by tissue plasminogen activators. Tissue plasminogen activators, and these tissue plasminogen activators are also present in the blood. Okay, these are present in the blood, and this plasmin, the plasmin which is present here, this plasmin, it's controlled by various things. So it is controlled by, first is tissue plasminogen activator inhibitors. Tissue plasminogen activator inhibitors, or we can write it as TPAI, because here it was tissue plasminogen activator which converts plasmin into plasminogen. So it will be controlled by tissue plasminogen activator inhibitors, means they inhibit this. Minus means inhibit. Okay, they will inhibit this. And second thing, antiplasmin from liver. Antiplasmin which comes from the liver. So this will also control this tissue plasminogen activators. Okay, so plasmin will be controlled by these two things in our body. Okay, so this is how the process of fibrinolysis occurs in our body. So fibrinolysis occurs by the presence of the plasmin, and this plasmin is present in the inactivated form. Okay, sorry, here I have written it like this. So plasminogen will be converted into plasmin. Okay, so here in our body, this plasmin, it is present in the inactivated form which is called as plasminogen, and this plasminogen has to be converted into activated form. It will be converted into activated form only when there is tissue plasminogen activators which are present in the blood. They will convert plasminogen into plasmin, then this plasmin will come, and this plasmin will then break down this clot and prevent the intravascular blocking in our blood. Okay, now there is one more intravascular anticoagulant which is present in our blood, that is heparin. Heparin. Okay, so heparin, it is an anticoagulant which prevents the coagulation. So it prevents coagulation. Okay, till now we were studying about the coagulation, process of coagulation. Okay, but heparin is an anticoagulant which prevents the coagulation. So everything is present in our body. There is a balance, there is a homeostasis in our body. So everything is present in its sufficient amount. So if there is coagulation, there will be anticoagulant. If there is anticoagulant, there will be coagulant also. Okay, so heparin, it is an anticoagulant, or we can say that it is an intravascular anticoagulant. Okay, what it does, first thing, it is produced by the liver. If there will be a liver disease, there will be decreased heparin. Okay, second thing, it increases effectiveness of antithrombin third. So it helps the antithrombin third. Okay, so it increases the effectiveness of antithrombin. Antithrombin means which will prevent the thrombin. Okay, so that means it will prevent the coagulation, anticoagulant. Okay, second thing, it combines with antithrombin third, means heparin. It combines with 83rd, antithrombin third, and then it quickly removes thrombin from blood. Removes thrombin, means clot, from blood. So it's used to prevent the coagulation. Okay, that is important here. Now there are some of the conditions. This was about the heparin, how it plays a role in our body. Now there are some conditions that can cause excessive bleeding. Conditions which cause excessive bleeding. So first condition which causes the excessive bleeding is thrombocytopenia. Thrombocytopenia means decreased number of platelets in our blood. When the number of platelets in our blood will decrease, it will cause thrombocytopenia. Okay, so this will cause excessive bleeding because there will be less number of platelets to form the platelet plug. Okay, second condition is vitamin K deficiency. Vitamin K is essential for the clotting factors, already I told you. Okay, so vitamin K is very important for the synthesis of some of the clotting factors. If there is vitamin K deficiency, for example in case of hepatitis, there is deficiency of the vitamin K, so in that case there will be excessive bleeding. And the last one, which is most important, there are other factors but I am only here mentioning the important things. So that is hemophilia. Hemophilia, it is an X-linked disorder, and generally and mainly it affects males. Okay, so 85% of this hemophilia is due to deficiency of factor 8, and if there is deficiency of the factor 8, then it's called as hemophilia A. And 15% of the hemophilia cases, they occur due to deficiency of factor 9, and if there is deficiency of the factor 9, that is called as hemophilia B. So these are two things, one is hemophilia A and second one is hemophilia B. So hemophilia A is caused by the deficiency of factor 8, while as hemophilia B is caused by the deficiency of factor 9. So both these cases will cause increase in bleeding in our body. Okay, so that was all about the process of the coagulation, fibrinolysis, the clotting factors, and the conditions which can cause the excessive bleeding in our body. We will meet in the next lecture.